Thank you, Jake. Okay, so just before we move on, as Jake mentioned there, the Menti code, make sure that you've got that logged in. I am intrigued by some of these fantastic prizes. I wish I could enter that too. I'm sure they'll all be utterly brilliant. Okay, so just what I want to do now is just to quickly jump back into Mario Kart for a few minutes and just talk a little bit about what as a games developer you might be thinking whilst playing Mario Kart, not necessarily as a gamer. Okay, so I've just come back to our level selection page. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to think of these as. These aren't races anymore to me as a developer. These are our different game levels. Okay, so we have lots and lots of choice here, which is great in terms of a gamer to keep my audience, who I'm aiming this game at, to keep them entertained, to keep them want to come back for more. Okay, so I have 6, 12 times 4 levels. I've got 48 levels here, just on this particular section of the game. Now I'm pretty certain that's everything, and the way in Mario Kart they go about it, adding extra difficulty in, they make your vehicles so they can go faster. Okay, so we have a 50cc cup, where you have fairly slow vehicles. Then we've got 100, 150, and 200cc, I think, as well. And I think also there's a way to play the each level in reverse also. So plenty of opportunity there as a games developer to keep your audience engaged, to keep them coming back for more. Okay, and that's before we've even started the game. Okay, so straight in there, as I said earlier, this it's an important part of the game, keeping your audience entertained. So even the loading screen here has got lots for me to have a look at and do. And then we get into the second part of this loading screen. Now we can actually see a little bit of the level. So before we even start playing, I'm quite excited about what's to come. Okay, so as we start, I can see lots of my favorite Mario characters in there, and away I go. Okay, again, lots of things to collect, power-ups, things I can use to my advantage in the game to make sure that I win. So I've got a power. Oh, I've just been hit by a power-up, so I can put my banana skin down for someone, collect a few more power-ups. I've got a different mechanic there. I'm now not just in a normal type of car. I'm in like a hovercraft type car. Hitting the characters there, it didn't just cause me to crash. It actually gave me a little bit of a speed boost. So you're actually encouraged in Mario Kart to crash, to bump into your characters. Some other game dynamics there, a little speed ramp, give me a little boost. Oh, I've just been hit by another enemy, a red shell. I've got a little boost there to catch myself back up. And away I go onto the second lap. Okay, up on the screen there, over on the right-hand side, we have what's often referred to as a HUD, a heads-up display. So this gives us a little bit of information about what's happening in-game. So you can see, looking at the bottom left there, I've got 0 coins collected, but I'm on lap 2 of 3. What comes there, because it gives me along the bottom if an enemy's about to charge me with something. I just got hit by a blue shell there. You can see bottom right, I'm getting hit all the time here now. Bottom right tells me what position I'm in. That's just changed to position 2. And then just above that, we have the game map. So again, maps come in quite handy in lots of different games that we use. Okay, not just racing games, but lots of games have map elements in them to help the player not get lost. Okay, top left, I have my inventory. Again, a mechanic that's used in lots of different games. Okay, what am I carrying? What have I got? What equipment have I got? I'm guessing we're getting quite a lot of coins. What's good with Mario Kart is if you are out in front, your collectibles aren't as destructive or as helpful as if you were at the back. So again, that's quite a good game mechanic to make it a little fairer. So if you're out in front, you're not going to keep collecting lots and lots of really powerful power-ups that are going to keep you right out of the front. If you're further behind, you're going to collect more powerful things to give you a better chance at getting towards the front. I really quite like that as a mechanic to give, you know, especially for new players, to stop them feeling a little bit disheartened by what's going on in the game. And there we come through to finish that. So hopefully there you can see, I barely spoke at all there about that game as a racer. It was more to do with some general things that you could actually use in any game that you do. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to my PowerPoint. Okay, there, just again, just a reminder for you, the Menti code, if you haven't got it. All right, so looking at the release game features sheet again. So I've chosen a few things there that were from Mario Kart, but these things don't necessarily have to stick to that genre. As I said earlier, you look at games for many different reasons. Okay, so one of the features that I liked was the character selection. Lots of characters to choose from. It's a hook to get you in, especially with the vast array of characters that Nintendo has access to use characters from different games, from different areas. So, for example, we were looking at the Gigantosaurus game the other day. Now, I would imagine from watching that TV program, there are lots of characters within that. Everybody will have a favorite dinosaur from that show, I would imagine. So having those kind of characters in your game, having something that your player can buy into straight away before the game's even begun, is really going to get them involved in the game. All right, the second thing I've talked about there is tracks, or I put in brackets, levels. Now, again, because that's all those tracks were within that game. They were our different game levels. Okay, and there's lots of variety of race in Mario Kart, but that would equate to lots of different variety of level. Okay, whether that's the type, the location, but there's lots and lots of different different things going on. Again, this idea of keeping your player interested, keeping them coming back for more. And what I really liked about that, again, very generic here, is the menu system. Okay, within Mario Kart, each menu was easy to use. Okay, you don't feel like you're getting lost within those menus. They all had a very specific purpose. Character selection, your loadout of your vehicle, what your vehicle is going to look like, you know, level selection, all very much, you know, step by step to get you to play in that game. They all felt very easy to use. Okay, going backwards from that, one thing I didn't do was maybe press the pause menu and see what happened there. But I know from within that game, the pause menu is exactly the same. You don't ever feel like you're getting lost, no matter where you pop up a menu at any point. And that, again, is really important. If you frustrate your players in any way, then your game is not going to be successful. All right, there are hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands of games out there. And if you're creating a game that's of the same genre as something else, and they don't like your game, well, the next game is only a download away, isn't it? So you have to make sure that everything works swimmingly in your game, so that your players don't get bored, don't get frustrated, and quite easily the flow of that game works well for them. Why then? Why is this process important? Why is this idea of prototyping, of looking at existing games to help improve your game, important in the whole grand scheme of the game's development? Okay, well, first of all, it generates more ideas for your game. Okay, when you are prototyping, when you are play testing, when you are looking at other games, it's all about a thinking process. Okay, that brainstorming, that putting your ideas together. Okay, the more places you can look to get ideas, the better your game is going to be. And once you've created a prototype, as I've said many times over the last few days, that's not the end of it. Okay, you must always be looking for ways to improve your game, and this process helps with that. Whether it's brainstorming ideas, trialing things in a prototype to discover they don't work, or to look at an existing game to get some ideas to help to try and find something that will give your game that edge. And of course, it's quite important that your game is different to existing games. And you're not going to necessarily find that out until you play some different games. Okay, you might have created the greatest racing game ever, but then suddenly you play some racing games. So you might play Dirt Rally, or you might play Mario Kart, or you might play Gran Turismo, and suddenly, that's why my game looks quite good, because I've stolen lots of ideas from somebody. And then you would then go around and change things. So we're not always, trying to get ideas for our game. We're also trying to make sure that our game is different enough to existing games. We don't want to get in trouble over copyright for creating a game that's identical to another game. But equally, it's important that we look at existing games to find out what we can do different. Well, Mario Kart does this, and this really, really well. Okay, so I'm not even going to attempt to try and include those mechanics because Mario Kart is just the king. But what I am going to do is make my game slightly different to Mario. I'm going to put this feature in that Mario Kart hasn't got. Okay, so that's the whole process really that we've gone through. We've looked at different games. We've prototyped a game, and we've seen how to make changes to our games. Now, that again is not the end of it. That whole process. Okay, as I've said before, it's very circular. It's very much a process of going back to the beginning and improving and improving. And I think I mentioned this last in one of the sessions, but even once a game is released, a lot of developers now are still providing different things within that game, providing new features of a game, whether that's new levels, new gameplay. Unfortunately, a lot of games that are released still have a lot of bugs in. Now, again, that's one way to absolutely turn your audience off your game, is by providing a game that actually doesn't work. Okay, but as a developer, instead of just leaving that, your best bet is always to hold your hands up, say, yeah, we've made some mistakes here. Here's some new code. Here's the latest version of the game that gets rid of those bugs and does it. Okay, so even with a released game that you've got in your hands, your Mario Kart game, even once that is in your hands, that's not the end of the cycle, or it shouldn't be the end of a cycle. A good developer will always provide that support, provide those updates, provide those bug fixes continually throughout the process. I play quite a lot of Overwatch, and every Wednesday, pretty much without fail, the developers of Overwatch will release some kind of patch. Okay, now Overwatch has gone through quite a lot in its lifespan. Lots of different game types, lots of new characters have come in. So again, what they've done, instead of having to spend a lot of time on creating a new game, Overwatch 2 is going to happen, but they're still putting a lot of time and effort into keeping that player base happy in Overwatch, making sure that they've got nowhere else to turn to, these new players. Like I said, new games are out all the time. It'll be very easy for a player to uninstall Overwatch and put something else on, but actually, because Overwatch keeps reinventing itself as a game, keeps adding new features in, keeps doing new things, this cycle process keeps going. And all the time, it will go straight back to that idea of prototyping, that idea of having a part developed game that they can work on. All of this is how it's done in the real world, obviously on a much bigger scale though. So thinking of the real world and where to go next, we want to look at some testing now. Okay, so again, this is, we're gonna go back to your game that we created, the Run the Gauntlet game for this, for testing stuff. So testing is really important because what you want to do is try, as I sort of alluded to earlier, is to try and avoid releasing a game that doesn't work. Okay, there's nothing more frustrating, I think, for a player than to get really excited about a game and then it doesn't work. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to do a little bit of testing based on our Run the Gauntlet game. Okay, so testing, as the name suggests, is just making sure it works. Now, as we created our game, the first thing I did when I added a new feature was to hit the play button, to review that game, to review the changes that I'd made, to make sure that they worked okay. Now that is testing. Okay, testing is just to make sure that all of your features work in the game. Okay, we might have been through 4, 5, 6 iterations of prototyping, and we've now come up with a game that we are almost ready to release into the wild. But we just need to do that final testing to make sure that it works. Testing would be done, obviously, as we go through the process. And you'll have done testing as well to your games. Okay, you might not have thought about it, you might not think that this is testing, but it's naturally the first thing that you do with a game when you're creating it. You'll do a little bit of coding, you'll put a little bit of characters together, you'll put some events in, and you'll make sure it works. Okay, so what you do in the real world, you just have to formalize that process a little bit, and you create a test table. Okay, so in the real world, games are massive, games are huge. If you are a developer on a AAA game such as Mario Kart, you may not even be in charge of one level on your own. You might be in charge of a character. You might be in charge of scenery. You might be in charge of track layout. Okay, so there's lots of different things within the game. But for our small game that we created, you're just a one-man software development team. Okay, and you've created that entire game yourself. So your testing, the purpose of your test would be to just test that your entire game works. In the real world, this purpose of the test might be, something more specific. Making sure that the Mario character sits properly and acts as expected in his cart. Okay, making sure that the scenery works well with the level that it's designed for, making sure that the trees look like they are blowing in the wind, making sure that the buildings all look and act when as you would want them to when the camera movement changes. Okay, but for our game, for our play testing, the purpose of our test is just to make sure that the game works. Okay, now I've just chosen a few tests. We probably did a lot more in our little game, but I've just chosen 4 tests for us to have a quick look at. And the way this is put together, like I say, is very, very similar regardless of the game. Okay, you would have this process for testing your game. Okay, so you have what the test is, what the expected results are, what you think should happen, what the actual results are, what did happen, and then any comments to add to that. For example, so thinking back to our Run the Gauntlet game, one of the first things that we did was to make sure that our monster could only move in a particular way. So our test might be movement. The expected result, we only want it to move to the right. Now, this half of the test table, you can actually create before you've even got to the computer. Once you've done your prototype and you're planning on paper, you have an idea of what you want your game to do. So from there, you can then start to think about what kind of things would make that work. What kind of things are you going to test to make sure that it works as you have in your mind? Okay, the actual results, obviously, we have to do a little bit of coding for to get to that stage. So we do our movement. The expected result, we only want it to move to the right. But the actual result, when we ran it, well, the character still moves to the left too. So some comments that we need to put in there. We change the event, it works fine now. Okay, it might be a bit more detail. It might be that at that moment in time, you don't actually know what the problem is. Okay, still need to discover what the issue is. We'll revisit when worked out. You know, as long as you put in some comments there for anything that's not quite working as expected. The idea is that then you revisit this until all your expected results, all your actual results are as the expected results, that everything works as it should do. It may be that doing something causes an issue somewhere else. So our new game button may work, but actually instead of starting the game again, it goes to a different screen. Okay, so although the button itself appears to be working okay, the coding behind it, other things aren't quite working, or it's not doing something you expect. So you have to kind of test it, each sort of thing individually, but then also as a whole, you would do some testing. All right, so some other tests that we could look at. So our health bar animation. So when it's hit, we get some changes. When the monster's hit, the health bar changes, and that worked as expected. Similarly, our game over text. So on should appear on the screen when we win or lose. Okay, when we reach the flag or when we're hit by the monkey balls. And again, that worked as expected. Our new game button, however, didn't go according to plan. And we only want that to appear after game over. Okay, but at the moment, it's working, it's on screen all the time. And so what I've had to do there, I've changed the action to make sure it's invisible at the right time. And then run your game again, test it, make sure it works in. All right, as it says down at the bottom, if expected and actual results differ, then it might mean there is a bug in your game. So a bug is just some code that doesn't work as expected. Okay, and that's literally what would happen for a lot of it. It may be, some might be easier to find than others. It might be easy to figure out why the movement isn't working or why the new game button isn't appearing. But other things might take a little bit longer to work out. You might have to go back to the drawing board a little bit, retrace your steps. As a top tip, the best testers in the world are people who don't know much about the game. Okay, so it's big games companies actually employ play testers to test their games as they're doing. You get paid literally to play games all day long. Okay, and to test and to basically you'd be filling in this section, the actual results bit. Okay, so getting other people in to test your game is always a good idea. Okay, when I'm teaching games development in the school where I teach, I always try and get my pupils to break other people's games or other people's code, to do things a little bit unexpected that actually as a developer you might not have thought of, to try and find those bugs. Okay, that's really important. And also asking your players to provide a commentary, to speak aloud as they're playing the game. Okay, so again, to get their thoughts, a bit like I did when I was playing Mario, I kind of just spoke out loud what was coming to me from a games development perspective. All right, you may want that from a player perspective also. So that commentary might be slightly different. I don't like the way this menu button appears here, or I'm not quite sure where to go now. Oh, I really like this feature. This is really good. Oh, wow, this is really exciting, this level. You know, you can get quite a lot from listening to somebody playing your game. Okay, that might not necessarily hit these tests, but actually could provide some real insight. And again, for you to go back and then maybe redevelop, reevaluate what you've done, and re-prototype some sections of your work. All right, in terms of the games development, that's me done. Okay, so you've had 5 and a bit sessions in terms of thinking about, is this for me? All right, now I've alluded to quite a few times about how it's not just about how it's not just about the programming side of things. So for the last 10-15 minutes or so, I just want to talk you through a few places where you can go to get a little bit more information. I know Jake and his team are going to be have been feeding you with bits and pieces all week as well. So this kind of attaches quite nicely to what Jake has done. So I'm just going to get on to the internet. And there's quite a few websites and bits and pieces that I want to show you. So I was going to put together a presentation on different careers in the gaming industry, but I thought, you know what, this thing already exists. Okay, so there's a website. I mean, what I will do, I can pass all these websites on to Jake a bit later on, and he can make sure that, you know, in some way, if he does any follow-up work with you, or you've got access to these websites. But if you just search for different things, you'll be able to find this information fairly easy. So this is from the Prospects website, and this is just a little bit of information about video game careers. Now, this is fairly recent in terms of it being less than a year old, but it's still relevant. Okay, and you can see there straight away. I thought this was really interesting how much the UK gaming industry is worth. £3.86 billion. Okay, that is an awful lot of money. Okay, lots and lots of information there about trends and statistics about where things are going. You know, virtual reality, augmented reality, artificial intelligence. These are the fastest developing technologies. Sony, the PSVR, making it more affordable now to get into the world of VR. But there are lots and lots of jobs available. This industry is going nowhere. This is only going to grow, this industry. A lot of jobs that you will be going into in 10-15 years time probably won't even exist right now. Okay, that's how quickly things are changing in this industry. But some jobs that are available, we talked about these a few times: artist, designer, obviously the game programming side of things, but other things are really useful. Okay, other technical aspects of it: animator, audio engineer, IT tech support officer, tester. We just literally talked about that. QA tester, or quality assurance tester. They've got ensuring that the product is ready for release. It's a real job. Okay, so these are seen as like the technical aspects, really. You'll need to know, you need to have some tech knowledge. So using computer packages, these will use software and hardware in these particular jobs. But there are lots of non-technical roles: producer, translator, writer. Okay, things where you might not have the technical skills but are still hugely important. Okay, we talked about this before. The writer, the person who puts that story together, is incredibly important. Without a story, most games will fail. Okay, you need to have that story. You need to keep your audience glued. And a lot of the latest games, that story seems to be overtaking gameplay aspects now to a certain degree. You know, games like The Last of Us, for example, where the story behind the gameplay is more important. You know, a lot of these now, these scripts that are used, they're more like film scripts. Okay, the two worlds of filming and gaming are very close together. And how would you go about finding some of these jobs? Again, these are not an exhaustive list, but just some of the UK gaming industry places to go. Okay, Codemasters, Creative Assembly, EA, Jagex, Rockstar, Rocksteady, Sport Interactive, Team 17, Ubisoft, Sega have a headquarters in the UK as well. The UK is an incredible place to get a job in the gaming industry. Okay, universities like Middlesex are pulling out all the stops to get all of the courses and everything that you need in one place. The UK is the world leader in terms of video games, and unfortunately there's not a lot of people to fill those jobs. Okay, once you get out there, you'll find that a lot of coding, a lot of the creative jobs, a lot of the non-technical roles, they're going to people from other countries. Okay, our homegrown talent pool is shrinking, and so events like this that have been put on for you this week are designed to give you that spark, to give you that interest in pursuing a career in this field. And like I say, it's not just about the game developer, the programmer. In a short list here, there are lots and lots of other jobs. In this short list, the game programmer is only one particular job out of a bundle. All right, so that's really some information there about what kind of roles are available. The Digital Schoolhouse program that I work with has a section on YouTube called 1 Minute Mentors. Now, the 1 Minute Mentors program is a careers resource that's got lots and lots and lots of industry experts, people who are working in the games industry, talking about their role, how to get into their role, what kind of skills you need. But as you can see from the video clips, all about a minute long. Okay, so not much time at all, but actually lots and lots of really, really useful, helpful information. And you can see there, tester, audiovisual artist, marketing and comms manager, gameplay programmer, level designer, game designer, paralegal, so that the legal side of gaming as well, director, publishing, business development, art manager, the list goes on and on and on. There's a hell of a lot of jobs within that industry. Okay, so this is a really, really good resource to get into, to have a look and to see exactly what kind of skills that you need to get into. Another huge area, which again is generating an awful lot of income and hugely related to gaming, is esports. Okay, so esports, if you are not aware, is basically competitive gaming. So we've got all of these kind of people who create the games, but then there is also another entire industry around the playing competitively of those games. Okay, a great place to go to find some information about esports and how to get involved in an esports tournament is through Digital Schoolhouse. So from the Digital Schoolhouse website, they have a whole section devoted to esports, and it gives you lots and lots and lots of information about their tournament. They run a tournament every year, started in 2017. I was very fortunate to be involved in that, and our school were the inaugural winners of that esports tournament. From that, we had about 20 people involved that year, and this year we've got about 300 people involved. We're now seeing our initial teams, their next step. So I've now got 2 students who have gone on to do an esports degree, another couple of students who have done computer science degrees, but are now running their university esports club. So esports is growing hugely. This is another area. And again, this isn't just about gaming. Okay, there is a lot of good things that can come from getting involved in esports. From the gaming point of view, from being involved in a game, think of the soft skill development, such as leadership, problem solving, decision making. Okay, all of these skills will be developed through playing in esports, but there's also a whole host of careers around esports too. Okay, now the British Esports Association, I think I've got that open somewhere. I may not have, right, okay. So that the British Esports Association have just started to really push out their education side. Okay, they also run an esports tournament, but on top of that, they offer a huge wealth of advice on careers in esports. Again, it's not just about the gamer. It's not just about the player. Okay, lots and lots of different things there. Admin, referee, esports agents. Similar to how other professional sports people have an agent to help support their move to the big team, esports players also have agents to help them move to the big teams. Okay, working at the broadcast level, production, as a caster, somebody who commentates on the games and hosts tournaments, coaches, analysts, community manager, lots of journalism around it, obviously the pro gaming, observing, somebody who looks after the game camera, team manager, PR, marketing, events manager, the list goes on again, all from gaming. Okay, all from that spark of computer games, having an interest in computer games, which I think is why you're all watching today, can lead to an awful lot of information about that, about gaming. Okay, I have finished a little early. I wanted to finish a few minutes early just in case there were any other questions. So, Jake, I don't know if anybody has asked anything, or if you've got anything you want me to go over in the last 5 minutes, please do let me know.
I think we've covered quite a lot today, actually, to be honest, Mark. There might be a couple of questions on the Mentimeter, which we can just have a quick look now.
I apologize for having to kind of go through things quite quickly. I know there's an awful lot to get in, but I do think it's important to try and give everybody just a little flavor, toes dipped in the water, and to see, hopefully it will spark something in the people watching to get out there and to find more about these things.
Absolutely, and there is so much out there, like you say, yeah, just more than anything, just to say that all of these sessions that Mark has run this week will have all been recorded and are sitting on our YouTube channel. Just to remind everyone, before you go anywhere, to register on the Menti link, and with the code that is which is under your YouTube video now. And also just a big thank you to Mark for joining us this week, because he's a school teacher and he's on half term, like all of you are on half term. So just a massive thank you to him for joining us this week. And I'll be back after lunch with a session about the competition, and where you can ask me and some of the Middlesex team some questions about this week, and about the competition too. And I'm sure that if there are any questions, Mark will be happy to maybe answer after the camp, if there are any questions.
Yeah, absolutely no problem with that, Jake. If anybody has anything, please do forward that to me, and I can get those out to people through you.
Brilliant. That's absolutely great. So just before everyone goes, just make sure you just so you are able to ask those questions to us and to Mark and to register too. The Menti code is 120545 120545 and then you can do things like register, which is important, and then ask us questions, which is also important. So yeah, thank you so much, Mark, and yeah, we will be in touch with any questions from anyone.
Absolutely no problem, Jake. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.